Welcome to another episode of Threads of Enlightenment. I want to, first of all, say from the bottom of my heart, with all gratitude, thank you so much for coming to our show. And we take it seriously. We honor you. We thank you we know your time is precious. We know that your energy is precious. And you're here to entrust us with your journey, and it is our goal that we would create a safe space for us to have that conversation. Mary, we thank you for coming to Threads of Enlightenment.
It's an honor to be here. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. I want you to tell the folks all the things that you have created so far as you've gone through your journey. What are those things? Because those are the things that people will get to reach out to you as you offer it to them.
Well, if I think about my whole life, there's a lot of things I've been part of. Every time I'm a part of any, I end up making it into something different and moving it forward. And that's been, when I was teaching, being really active in how things change. I taught for a while in the United Arab Emirates, and as part of that, developed this whole different kind of approach to mathematics and to teaching mathematics to people who did not speak English, who wanted to speak mathematical English, and who had a variety of some of them could count and some of them knew calculus. And so they would all come to us at once, and how to teach that and the way to go around moving that. In the middle of my teaching career, I had come back to the States. I started having seizures, which were for a while diagnosed as epilepsy. So they looked like epilepsy. And I had them for 11 years.
Wow.
For 11 years. And for 5 of those years, I couldn't work. For the last 6 of those years, I was working like maybe 9 hours a week. And that was the most I could do. During that time, I looked a lot to the medical professional and to the psychiatrist and stuff to teach me how to get out of that and what was happening and how to stop that. But that didn't work. What happened was just another person that I was in a 12-step meeting with came up to me and he said, I know what will help your seizures. This therapy called Emdr. Eye movement desensitization and reprocessing.
Wow.
And, because it's hard to get enough hope together and enough belief together to try new things.
Yeah.
Because I tried so many new things and they didn't work. And so it took some time and energy to do that. But I got to that space, and in 4 months, we processed all of these different traumas I had. And at the end of the time, it was like I burst into joy.
Wow.
It was the most amazing thing. It was like half of my head, the right side of my head, had been full of traumas that were, in a concrete box, in a concrete vault with a little door that had all kinds of things in front of it. And when that was swept out, it was like, oh, this is a space to dance. And so that was what I would do, and I have that now. It's like anytime I want to, I can sit there and just go up there and dance.
Yeah.
My body's has various ailments, and so I can't dance a whole lot. But in my head, I dance a lot.
Oh, that's awesome.
What happened is that during those 4 months, my therapist had me write everything that happened, what happened at the session, what happened every day between sessions. And then we would read it when we started the new session. We would read that first, and then we would go. And so what we did came out of what I had written. And when you do EMDR, it's not a therapist-directed kind of therapy. It's an inner soul kind of development.
Wow.
There's something in me that wanted to heal.
Yeah.
I think all of us have that. And it's getting in touch with that let me heal. When we finished, we realized we had this incredible description of what happens during EMDR, how you process, what kinds of things come up, what to be aware of, what to be glad about, all this kind of stuff. She said, we need to put this out as a book. And I said, okay, let's put this out as a book. And she contributed, a little comment after each session.
Yeah.
So there's therapist comments interspersed in there. But I had like 900 pages of stuff that no one else could read.
Yeah.
It was just too big. So it went through cutting down and cutting down to get to the bare bones. But I feel in some ways like I am just this is a gift that happened to me
Hmm.
that I can share with other people, which is the story of my recovery.
That is beautiful. I want to talk to you. I want to go back, Mary. I want to go back to when you were born. And here at Threads of Enlightenment, we like to go back into our journey and see how we were developed and as we progress back to today. So I want to go and take a look at your family. How was your family life? How were you brought up? And that type thing.
Okay, I was born and raised in Southern Ohio,
Hmm.
born and raised Catholic. There were 6 of us. I was the oldest girl.
Mm.
I had an older brother, but I was the oldest girl. And at that point in time in our family, we were very into roles defined by sex.
Wow.
So my job, my mom there was like a year and a half between me and my older brother, maybe 13 months between me and my next sister. And then there was barely a year between the rest of them.
Hmm.
So there was a little mob of little children around. And I figured mom needed help. And
Yeah.
somehow or other, I got the job of being of being the little mother.
Hmm.
So
Wow.
other people's needs became really important. Their needs became really important. My job was to make sure that their needs were met, that they were safe, that they had something to drink, that, they had something to eat, all this kind of stuff I was involved in.
Hmm.
And somehow, and it still amazes me, I really was considered like a little mother. My
Hmm.
sister went to practice for volleyball, like a half hour walk from home.
Hmm.
And mom didn't want her to walk home by herself because she was little.
Yeah.
She's only 13 months younger than me. So I would go and meet her after that practice and walk her home. I was the big kid.
Wow.
I always took that point of view, and that carried me throughout my life, that I was here to meet other people's needs.
Mm.
That's what I was doing. And I looked for needy people, and I did the best I could to meet their needs and just directed myself that way. The thing I didn't know was that I had to meet my own needs,
Yeah. Yeah.
that I had to pay attention to my own emotion, because the seizures were emotions that couldn't get out any other way.
Yeah.
I didn't let them out.
So
I didn't know.
how did you feel as the caregiver, the elder mother, that when you were servicing and taking care of everyone? How did it make you feel as an individual? Did you feel overwhelmed? Do you remember how it made you feel?
One of the things we looked at in EMDR was, why did I think I had to work harder than everybody else?
Hmm.
And as we did the EMDR, we went back to when I was a child and I was going up to bed and mom was still down there darning socks. At that point in time, you darned socks. You didn't
Yeah.
just go buy new ones. You darned. And I thought I should be there working with her.
Mm.
I should work more. And that thought from a child I held for a long time until all of a sudden it was like, well, of course you need to sleep. You're a little girl. Go to bed, little girl. You shouldn't
Yeah.
stay up and work with your mom. You don't need to work more than everybody else. When you were a mom, you worked a lot, but it's okay to go to bed.
How long Mary, did you live like that as you walked into your teenage years? How were you then?
My teenage years, they were older and they could take care of themselves pretty much.
Hmm.
I still had the idea of working hard. I was a very dedicated student. I was in honors things. I studied Latin and French and had to come in early had a class before school started for everybody else so that I could so that we could do those two languages.
Mm.
Worked really hard.
Yeah.
When I went to high school, I went to a Catholic high school, and my dad worked for Ford Motor Company,
Mm-hmm.
and he made enough for us to get by.
Yeah.
But there wasn't a lot of extra money around. But I got a 4-year scholarship to high school,
Wow.
to the Catholic high school. So that I got a full ride for that. When it came time to college, I scored high. I love standardized tests. I'm so good at them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I got a 4-year ride to Michigan State University.
Wow.
But I didn't value myself. I didn't value that.
Yeah.
I didn't take that start and use it for something. As soon as I got out, I went into social work for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Then I started daily drinking, and that didn't work. I stopped and was a drunk for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And when I stopped being, I got sober through a 12-step program. And when I
Mm-hmm.
stopped doing that, when I stopped being a drunk, is when I fell into teaching and found out that I loved, and in particular, I was teaching I was teaching developmental math.
Mm-hmm.
So I was teaching the people who had been bad at math during school. And we would go back and find out where they lost that and find out who told them they were bad and find out, how they could how it wasn't true that they couldn't do math.
Mm.
They could do math, maybe not like Einstein, but,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
write, we don't all write like Shakespeare.
Yeah.
That they could do it. And that's what I spent most of my career doing,
Let
is
me
teaching developmental math.
Let me ask you a question. When you were in your college, you got through, you did well, and you said you came out and you got your job as a social worker, and you started drinking. Why, looking back, why did you think you did that? Because I can surmise why, but from your vantage point, can you explain to us as to why you thought that was a better route, and what was causing you to go that route?
What was causing me to go that route
Yeah, to start
was
drinking.
the thing that I discovered later,
Mm-hmm.
which is that I was ignoring my own needs, that I had some serious misconceptions about the world
Mm-hmm.
from my earlier time, and serious misconceptions about me and my role in life. I operated deep down. I was operating on the assumption that if I had been really good, I would be dead.
Hmm.
And I would be in heaven. I would be a little martyr. Everything would be good. And when you carry that dissonance with you, you need some kind of relief, and that drove me to drink. And then once you really become an alcoholic, I don't think it really matters why you drink or why you didn't drink.
Yeah.
But the only thing that's important is that you don't drink.
Yeah.
I drank because I was an alcoholic after a time.
Yeah. It's usually we do things that are detrimental to us because we are trying to subside something, some emotional thing that is trying to come up, and better to deal with it that way than to face it. And most people, until we have to face it. So, talk to me, Mary, about when you had to face it. What were the I know things happen in a series of situation, and then it culminates in a major thing where your life is put in front of you, and you have to begin this questioning part of your life and being honest with yourself. What was the incident that caused you to begin that journey?
The incident that caused me to look at my drinking
Yeah.
was I had a 5.5-month-old son. I was a single mother. We had been out. I had gotten drunk and was in a blackout. And when I woke up the next day, his diaper was muddy and I didn't know where he had been.
Wow.
And I thought, you are that kind of mother that can go into the bar, forget the kids in the car, and the kid, dies in the heat or
Mm-hmm.
has serious effects from the cold or whatever. That is me. And
Mm.
I can't be like that.
Yeah.
I can't tolerate that. So I either have to learn to not drink,
Mm-hmm.
figure out a way to do that, or I have to die.
Mm.
And that was when I found AA.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that is powerful, Mary, that you came to that conclusion. And it is our hope, those that are listening that are there in that space, that you do as Mary. You make the decision first, and then you take the corresponding action to help guide you forward to move from that space.
Yeah.
Here you are in this
Yeah.
program, and when did you begin to have the onset of the disease? As you started a little, I want you to circle back there, and then we'll walk from that point.
Well, the PTSD happened. See, we all have traumatic events,
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes when we have traumatic events, they freeze in our head.
Yeah.
They get frozen in our head. And so we have to look at these frozen memories and somehow unfreeze them so that we can look at them again.
Mm-hmm.
Those frozen moments all came from when I was drinking or when I was a child.
Yeah.
Right. And I started into the program. I was in the program for 30 some years when the seizures started.
Mm-hmm.
So for a long time, just the 12 steps were enough to keep me sober, keep me doing my work, keep me raising my child, keep me living a fairly normal kind of life,
Yeah.
a productive kind of life. But when I got back from the UAE, it was like there was seepage from the wall
Mm-hmm.
that I had there. And that seepage came out in the seizures.
Yeah. It's
And I don't remember what your question was. I just started
no,
rambling on.
that's it. You answered it. I think a lot of us, we carry our trauma, and they manifest because it was such a impactful emotional event that it lodges within us, and we will carry that with us, and we don't understand that it was an emotional event, and it will cause you need to have an emotional release so that you can usher that energy that has been bound into our bodies caused by that traumatic event. And it manifests in many different ways. Yours was seizures and traumas, and others I've heard different types of diseases manifest as a result of not dealing with that trauma. And once that they start that journey and they recognize where it was from, that as they began to deal with that trauma, the undealt with emotion, that thing, that disease, usually progress slowly and changes and morph, and they get their desired outcome. So here you are, your friend, you're living, as you said, you're managing, you're doing well. This particular thing began to bring up. Talk to me about some of those triggers, some of those I want to say thoughts that we cause our mind to think on constantly, that grow into big monsters, the less than thoughts. I am not worthy, all of those things, because a lot of us have those less than, not recognizing the greatness in who we are, but we focus on this less than mentality. What were some of those that you noticed within yourself, Mary, that you had to overcome?
One of the big things was that the world was divided into two sections. The people who have had traumatic events, who have had these, where your life is threatened, those kinds of events, and live through them and live in the reality where those things can happen again.
Mm-hmm.
And people who just wander around aimlessly like they're going to be okay. Like, it used to scare me to death when I would see women on television who would just be open and themselves and joyous, and I would think, "Oh my God, the evil is going to come and get you." That's what happens. That they're going to come and get you. And
Yeah.
then you're going to be like me and be different from everybody. So this idea that I was different from everybody, that I knew there were more than me. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know many people who were like that, but I knew there were more than me. But we couldn't talk about it. Conversation couldn't happen about that.
Yeah.
Now, as I got into EMDR, the idea that the world is an unsafe place, that the evil is drawn to me, that I cause bad things to happen to me, that it's all my fault, that I did something that made it, that I created it, that was mine. All of that kind of stuff came out. That
Mm.
I didn't deserve good treatment, that I didn't deserve stuff. Those kinds of beliefs that I had gotten from the events in my life
Mm-hmm.
came out. And now it's like traumatic events have happened to me. Okay. They took up, however many minutes or hours or days or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it is, it's a little amount of time compared to the whole amount of time that I have.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're like just memories of stuff that happened to me. And the thing that I see my mission as right now, the thing that I want to do is try to make sure that everybody who has suffered from a trauma, everybody that is stuck there, knows that there is a way that this can be over. This is not a life sentence.
Mm-hmm.
This does not have to be a life sentence. It's not like you just, learn how to deal with the fact that the world is out to get you,
Yeah.
or that people are going to, beat you up and do horrible things to you. That's not your reality. That doesn't have to be your reality.
Yeah. You can
Your
change it.
reality doesn't need to be defined by those events.
Yeah.
You can let them go. They can become part of your memory, and then you can go ahead and have a life full of joy. You
Yeah.
can do whatever you want to do.
I know a lot of people also, and it's just because we've been programmed this way. We go into the health arena looking for healing when, it's a spiritual thing, it's something deeper than the manifestation of pain in our joints or headaches or whatever it is. That energy
Uh-huh.
needs to be, that emotional energy is something that in many cases the conventional system within the healthcare is not equipped to deal with it because they've never been trained. And we're seeing some training because I keep up with some of the things because I was part of that industry. I see where they're now training physicians to look to the spiritual in the whole healing process within the individual. So there's some hope out there, But
Oh,
most
yeah.
people, Mary, they go there and not understanding that you have to get help sometimes outside of that healthcare arena. And you told the story where you were running into roadblocks. So as you began to investigate more about this particular tool that you're utilizing to get out, how did you, as you began to notice those monsters, as you began to overcome them, as you're getting stronger, how did that make you feel, Mary, the individual, that person? How did it make you feel?
I was surprised a lot. It would be, like me talking to, early on, I had we went through an incident that brought my brave little girl to life. And so
Hmm.
I had this brave little girl alongside me a lot. And it was like we would discover things, and there'd be like this conversation even saying, "Oh my goodness, why did we think that? That was so obviously not true." You know?
Yeah,
Why did we have to put ourselves through that?
yeah.
Um, a lot of surprise. The incidents, what in my trauma, the parts that were the replay.
Hmm.
So the trauma, you like replay the same thing. It's
Yep.
not like you get a different view of stuff. You replay the same thing,
Yeah.
how you felt, what it was like, all this kind of stuff. And when you do EMDR, it's like that view of it opens up,
Hmm.
and you see other things around you and you think of other things, and it puts it back in time, and it just shows you how wrong your idea was about it,
Yeah.
how limited your idea was about it. I was set up by a man I was dating for a gang rape,
Wow.
and I had internalized it as something that I had done to him that made him do that.
Wow.
And well, for most of the time, it wasn't even that he had set it up. It was just like, oh my God, this thing happened in his house. How did this happen?
Yeah.
And when I went back, it was like, oh my God, he had to plan it for all these people to be here. This wasn't just it's something that happened. They didn't overpower him or anything. This was a plan. What do you know? It was his fault.
Hmm.
What a nasty guy he was. I better date better people, you know?
Yeah.
Just surprised a lot.
Yeah. I'm so sorry you had to go through all of that trauma. That is absolutely, for a man to do that to a woman, is I just don't understand. Here you are as you're beginning to embark on this beautiful journey, and things began to open up to you. You're being surprised, as you said, and you talk about the joy that you felt as you began to un unhook and unmask all of these feelings and false perception. Talk to me, Mary, when the major perception shift happened, when you locked in and you knew that everything beyond this place, this point, happened back there. I am now in. I hate to say control, but I am now in control of my destiny. In other words, when you made that shift, talk to me about that.
It wasn't a control that I got.
Mm-hmm.
At the end, the joy came. When the joy came, it on the journey during the 4 months, I would get, I would have good days and bad days, and we
Yeah,
would work
yeah.
on it and searched for this last final big trauma that I had to face. And process through. The joy didn't hit me until the very end, and then the joy hit me.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't that I could be in control. It was that what a wonderful world. I wonder what I'm going to do next. This is just so cool. It
Yeah,
wasn't now I can control. It was like now it can happen to me.
yeah.
Now I can interact with it.
That
I
is
don't have
awesome.
to
That
be
is,
I can be a needy person. They can be a needy person. We can meet each other's needs. Then we can go on and have a good time. That's what it was like. It
yeah.
didn't feel like control.
That is awesome. That
No.
is, I wish the people can see the joy that is in your face as you are expressing your newfound release as you recollect and back on that day. So here you are, you guys, you found joy. And after you've gone through, you guys looked at that manual and said, wait a minute, we have something here that we can
Yes.
put together and release to the public that will give them a better understanding of the process from your point of view and the process from your therapist's point of view. I think that is absolutely beautiful combination to create so that when the reader looks at that, they can get it both from the clinical side versus the practical side being the person, the clinical side being the therapist. When you guys embarked on that's when you realized it. And she said, "We got a book," and you go, "Uh huh." Talk to me about as you guys were breaking down, as they were deleting some of the things. Did you how did you manage that?
Oh, it was very hard to delete. The first thing we did was just separate out the session description, we didn't put that in, and then separate out the daily things and look at it.
Mm-hmm.
And then she went in and did the session notes. And then we looked at it. I have a friend who's a publisher, and he went through it, but he had experienced it with me.
Mm-hmm.
And so he went through it and he knew how much the ups and downs and ins and outs. He didn't want to delete very much. So so he helped a lot in the formatting and in the making sure that it flowed, that I
Yeah.
didn't talk about things that people didn't have any reference to, that it just made sense as it was going through. And then I got another editor, I don't think she liked the book, but she cut it and cut it and cut it. She said, and at one point when I first ran into my brave little girl, it was like there was all of these stories that popped up of incidents when I was brave and incidents when I did these things. And there's like 6 or 7 of them. She said, we get the idea at 3. So cut it down to 3.
That is awesome. I know
And so then,
the battle is with the editor is always a fun part. I tell people it's not as easy as you think, especially when there's a team, a group of people, especially an editor, because it's your perception on their perception, and so it's a nice little tussle that you have.
Yeah, we finally got through it.
Uh,
And the book came out right when we were starting into COVID.
mhm.
So my idea was a slow book tour because I don't have a lot of money behind me. It was a slow book tour,
Mhm.
just going place to place as I had the money and the place to stay and that kind of thing. And that didn't work at all. And it wasn't until later that I found podcasts.
Mhm.
And that's, at this point, is my main way of getting the message out
Yeah.
about the book and about EMDR, is in the podcast, because you reach a lot of people, more than I would reach if I was going out from city to city doing little book reading.
Yeah, it's amazing the amount of books that were published just before, within the space of within the space of COVID. The amount of people that I've interviewed, that story that you just gave is a very common theme. And I believe that we were all going through all of our stuff to be ready for this particular time, because this is so needed. One of the things that I always tell people, Mary, that those that are listening, I want you guys to go ahead and purchase Mary's book, because, as I always say, anytime you're sitting down with an author's book, is you're having a one-on-one with that author. You're having a private time, and you're able to really feel the energy off of the pages, those words that are placed there to capture your attention, your energy, to cause you to now shift your perception of your current situation to help you navigate through your successful journey. Mary, I want to thank you for coming to Threads of Enlightenment. This was a very beautiful conversation. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, good questions.
Thank you.